Recorded Books Incorporated presents an unabridged recording of Post Captain by Patrick O'Brien, narrated by Patrick Tull. This work, copyrighted 1972 by Patrick O'Brien, is recorded by arrangement with George Borchardt Incorporated. This recording is copyrighted 2001 by Recorded Books. In 1799, General Napoleon Bonaparte returned from Egypt a famous man. A 5-man executive directorate had been ruling France since the execution of Robespierre, but the failure of the directorate to cope with internal problems had pushed it to the edge of collapse. The ambitious Napoleon hoped to use his widespread popularity to sweep to power. Ultimately, he used troops to drive out the assemblies, allowing a small group of supporters to vote through a new constitution, and created a ruling body of 3 consuls assisted by an appointed Senate. Napoleon then made use of a new device, the plebiscite, in which the constitution and the new first consul were approved by a popular vote of 3 million. Once in power, Napoleon acted swiftly to achieve peace in Europe. After a surprise crossing of the Alps, he shattered Austrian power in the Battle of Marengo in 1800, forcing a peace treaty by which Austria recognized all the conquests of the Revolution. With this, the British government lost her last continental ally. The war was costing dear, and the people on both sides were weary of it. British trade was being severely affected. Negotiations were begun with the London cabinet, and Napoleon strove to drive a bargain renouncing all claims on Egypt. In March 1802, the Treaty of Amiens was signed. It was, and could only be, a truce. And now, Post Captain.
Chapter 1. At first dawn, the swathes of rain drifting eastwards across the channel parted long enough to show that the chase had altered course. The Cherwell had been in her wake most of the night, running 7 knots in spite of her foul bottom, and now they were not much above 1.5 miles apart. The ship ahead was turning, coming up into the wind, and the silence along the frigate's decks took on a new quality as every man aboard saw her 2 rows of gun ports come into view. This was the first clear sight they'd had of her since the lookout hailed the deck in the growing darkness to report a ship hull down on the horizon 1 point on the larboard bow. She was then steering north-east, and it was the general opinion aboard the Cherwell that she was either one of a scattered French convoy or an American blockade runner hoping to reach Brest under cover of the moonless night. 2 minutes after that first hail, the Cherwell set her fore and main topgallants. No great spread of canvas, but then the frigate had had a long, wearing voyage from the West Indies, 9 weeks out of sight of land, the equinoctial gales to strain her tired rigging to the breaking point, 3 days of lying to in the Bay of Biscay at its worst, and it was understandable that Captain Griffiths should wish to husband her a little. No cloud of sail, but even so she fetched the stranger's wake within a couple of hours, and at 4 bells in the morning watch the Cherwell cleared for action. The drum beat to quarters, the hammocks came racing up, piling into the nettings to form bulwarks, the guns were run out, and the warm, pink, sleepy watch below had been standing to them in the cold rain ever since. An hour and more to chill them to the bone. Now, in the silence of this discovery, one of the crew of a gun in the waist could be heard explaining to a weak-eyed, staring little man beside him, "She's a French 2-decker, mate, a 74 or an 80. We've caught a Tartar, mate." "Silence there, God damn you!" cried Captain Griffiths. "Mr. Quarles, take that man's name." Then the grey rain closed in. But at present everyone on the crowded quarterdeck knew what lay behind that drifting, formless veil. A French ship of the line, with both her rows of gun ports open. and there was not one who had missed the slight movement of the yard that meant she was about
Sample complete. Ready to continue?